So we're going to talk about manopause this week. You heard it right, manopause, not menopause, not andropause, although they are very, very connected, but manopause. And we did not make that term up. We're going to be very timely this week. There was I think, a really, really good article. Boy, Time does come out with some good articles on these things every now and then. A really good article last week, I think, or maybe it's this week's, August the 18th. Yeah. August the 18th issue. So it hasn't even come out yet. No, but it came out last week. Manopause, aging, insecurity, and the $2 billion testosterone industry. We deal with menopause a lot. We're going to talk about it. I'm Dr. Martin Rutherford. I am a chiropractor, 36 years. I am a certified functional medicine practitioner. And this is my partner in crime here, Dr.
Reno Gates, chiropractor and board certified chiropractic neurologist.
And I let him say that because I always screw it up. And together we have put our disciplines together to handle chronic pain. And we've developed a chronic pain practice that has been kind of a really interesting experience because it's more or less evolved on its own. We started off with fibromyalgia, and you can name something a chronic pain short of cancer, which we don't treat, or a few other things like Lou Gehrig's disease, and we pretty much treat most of the rest. And we run across men with low testosterone regularly.
Oh, all the time.
Regularly, in conjunction with other things that these folks are coming in. In fact, it's been my experience that men come in here in andropause. Now, andropause is kind of like the female, almost like the equivalent of menopause. You get to a certain age, certain things start happening. Muscles start getting softer. You start having maybe erectile dysfunction. You start looking in the mirror and not looking like the guys in the magazines anymore, and starts affecting your psyche. But men just kind of seem to write it off to old age.
Right.
It's old age.
Exactly.
It's old age. And it's a whole lot more than that. And in the vast majority of cases, that whole lot more can be turned around without drugs.
Yeah.
And Dr. Gates was the one who saw this article last week, and I have been railing on testosterone for a couple of years now. Had a gentleman come in last week, and he's having all kinds of problems that had nothing that he was talking about relative to pain in his feet, fibromyalgia, and all this other stuff. But mainly he was really tired. This gentleman was massively exhausted. So they did some tests on him. They saw they had low testosterone, and they started giving it to him. And he feels a little better. And he will feel a little better for a while. And we're going to explain that. I am not anti-hormone replacement therapy across the board, but there are very specific and narrow parameters as to when hormone replacement therapy should be used. And like anything else, it seems like now, whether in any industry, but unfortunately now also in the healthcare industry, these events are being taken into consideration by entrepreneurs to make a lot of money, and unbelievably without consideration to long-term effects with the patient. So I think that's kind of like sets the stage. So Dr. Gates has been doing a lot of investigation, and as usual, he's come up with some extremely timely articles relative to kind of back up what we're going to say. And I think this is an important topic. We're thinking about calling it like the low T epidemic or something like that, but apparently there's so many websites out there that are busy selling you $2 billion worth of testosterone. This guy, by the way, was paying $400 a month on a website. No, without the doctor, for testosterone. And I'm sure maybe some of you out there are doing that. By the time we're done here, hopefully maybe that may not be the case. So anyway, so let's talk about this. Now, they coined this phrase, menopause. Had you ever heard this before?
I had never heard menopause.
Because when you said it, I cracked up.
Yeah,
because it's like a great, it's like,
menopause.
And I look at this guy, and I said, is there something wrong with him? I'm like, I look like that. I think that's pretty good. But I think that they're talking about this in here, where he's kind of, and they also put these little shorts on that kind of hug you to make you look even fatter around there. Yeah, but the bottom line is the menopause people generally have excess fat around their gut. But there's a whole lot more to it than that. So let's talk about it. So we're going to define for you, as defined here, and in our experience, what menopause is. And I think, just for the record, those people who have andropause could probably say, okay, same thing.
It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing. So let's talk about menopause and ultimately andropause. Same thing. Same thing.
You know, it reminds me of Seinfeld. I don't know if you're a big Seinfeld watcher.
I love Seinfeld.
But they did an episode about how George's dad needed a bra.
I'm from New Jersey, so
and they called it the bro, because George's dad was developing menopause. He was developing breast tissue. Yeah. So anyways, as you alluded to, this is a growing epidemic because we have the baby boomers who are coming into their golden years, so to speak, and they're getting older. Lots of times they may not feel as good. They may have excess.
And in this country, we're all looking for the fountain.
We're all looking for the fountain.
Liposuction.
Absolutely.
We want to put stuff in our lips that make our lips look good, and we want to do Botox to make the wrinkles go away.
Yeah, Dr. 90210.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you may be a guy on the golf course, you're about 65, you're talking to your buddy out there, he's looking pretty good. You say, hey, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm taking testosterone. And
I hear this a lot.
Yes, I bet you
do.
I
hear it.
Because you golf. And I don't.
And apparently, golfing is not cheap. Apparently, it takes a few bucks to golf. It takes at least a few bucks to get into testosterone therapy.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And just like so many things, vanity will motivate people. And it's motivating a lot of these guys to start into these testosterone protocols, so they feel as though they're 30 years old again. And it will increase their muscle mass. It will decrease their body fat, but there are a host of side effects that go along with it. So in terms of why it's a growing epidemic, I think it's likely because, A, we're recognizing it. It's not really an entity that was defined in the literature. And because of proprietary avenues that are going on, as demonstrated in Time Magazine. How about we time out there? Basically, in Time Magazine this month, they talk about a gentleman who has these testosterone centers around the country. I think he has 47.
47.
And basically, guys go.
And he's not a doctor.
No, he's a
businessman.
Yes.
Who has hired doctors in different states to test your testosterone and give you testosterone.
Mm-hmm. Pure and simple.
Hopefully, we're gonna get to you how bizarrely inappropriate just testing your testosterone is before administering you testosterone. And if you have my testosterone is low, of course I need to take more attitude. You have been well conditioned by our medical model, and we say this every time, we're not anti-medicine, but this medical model is insufficient for a lot of the things that are happening out there that are chronic, and this is one of them. So 47
centers.
Businessman hiring doctors.
Exactly. And basically, men go into these centers, and they play ESPN in the waiting room, and they go and they see their doctor, and they get their testosterone prescription. That's how it's relayed in the article. And
does this guy look like a guy to you that's taking testosterone? I don't know. Some of you can't see that. That's right. Some of you visual, some of you can't. Well, he doesn't look like he's taking testosterone. Or if he is, man, he needs it.
And maybe there were some other things going on there, which is why so many men have low testosterone.
Exactly.
And in the literature, a lot of the doctors are really angry about this growing trend of treating low T because they see it's incentivized to make money, via pharmaceuticals. It's incentivized from a private practice standpoint. And it's not really a clinical entity that was ever really talked about when they were going through medical school.
There's no regulation of it?
No.
It's
basically just off-label use of testosterone to help these guys feel younger. That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
Now, it's a growing epidemic, as we were alluding to, because A, there's a lot of baby boomers coming about. B, we're recognizing it and saying, well, you're a baby boomer, you're 30 pounds overweight, and your biceps used to be 17 inches, and now they're 13 inches. Take this testosterone, you're going to feel better. And then also, there's an obesity epidemic, and that's really the problem.
It is really.
We see that a third of America is obese, another third is overweight, And when a male becomes overweight, they're going to convert their testosterone into estrogen. And we're going to go into this in much greater detail. But that's basically why this whole menopause phenomena is a growing epidemic.
And what I would say is to those of you out there who are saying to Dr. Gates at this moment, yeah, but I've tried to lose weight. I've tried to lose weight, and it ain't happening. I'm bicycling. I'm going to the gym. I'm eating 1,800 calories a day. I did the paleo diet, and I lost weight, and then it came back on.
I eat in moderation.
I eat
in
moderation.
Yes.
I eat in moderation. You need to hear this because there's a lot of reasons why you're not able to lose that weight, and there are a lot of the same reasons why you have low T.
Exactly.
And you got to fix those reasons to get rid of the weight, and then ultimately that will get rid of low T, and probably 90-95% of the time it can be done without any drugs. And I'm going to get into why taking any estrogen or testosterone over a long period of time, although it is massively well documented, I'm going to get into and we're going to get into why that is not a good idea.
Exactly. So in terms of what is menopause, the literature societies, the endocrinological societies have kind of been grasping at this. So they had a European aging males study or something of that nature where they made these criteria. And basically menopause is defined as having low testosterone and then having 3 sexual symptoms, basically where there's low libido, poor erections, decreased sexual thoughts, and those are basically the 3. So, the spontaneity for being with your wife or your girlfriend is not there anymore. You're not waking up with, a tent in your sheets, so to speak, as you did at one point in time. We're all adults here, so I think we can talk about that. And then lots of times there's just this difficulty in achieving an erection for a lot of these guys. Coupled with these other symptoms, they may have depression that goes along with the decrease in muscle mass.
How would we define it in addition to that?
Well, I think we see so many other things going on that we're going to get into with the actual treatments.
Okay, you want to wait on that?
Yeah,
okay.
I think I'll postpone on that.
Okay.
But then we can see what the medical approach is, and this is where we really need to talk significantly. So Dr. Rutherford and I were talking beforehand, menopause versus menopause. And when women go through menopause, they are really bothered by having hot flashes, maybe having mood swings, maybe having migraine headaches because they no longer have estrogen. And so many women have gone the route of taking hormone replacement therapy. However, we now know there are some pretty significant dangers with taking hormone replacement therapy long term. And
not unlike menopause, they're still making estrogen.
Right.
And they're still making it from different places, with the possible exception of the person who's had a total hysterectomy and had their ovaries taken out. But it's not menopause. It's menopause in this country, I think, where women go through that more than anything else. And the same as menopause, it's other things. It's their stress levels. It's their blood sugar. It's gut problems. It's things we're going to talk about. The same thing. It's the same thing. Why would it be different?
Why would it be different? Guys,
so
it's the exact same problem.
Has been, the American Endocrine Society says you should, I don't remember the exact numbers for those of you who like to look up things, but you can look it up. American Endocrine Society has some very specific parameters of giving estrogen. I'm going to be very general, so if I'm not exact, forgive me, but it's going to be something like, you're supposed to take it for 3 months or 4 months at the lowest dose possible until you get some reaction, and then you should get off of it. How many years are people taking it when they come in here?
5 to 10 on average.
We've had 20, but 5 to 10 on average.
Yeah.
We'll tell you why that's bad.
Yeah.
We'll tell you why that's bad. It's the same. It's the same as taking testosterone, and they're talking about it. They talk about it in this article.
Yeah.
They do talk about it in this article. I'll tell you what, this is a really, really good article because it's written in a way that the layperson can really, really understand. And that's not an easy thing to do with these things.
So basically, the medical approach, as you see in certain pharmaceutical commercials, you see the guy running through the meadow, and do you have low T? We've all seen the Cialis and the Viagra commercials for erectile dysfunction.
Oh yeah, this is selling a lot of that.
Yeah, and so
menopause is selling a lot of that.
So in these centers and anti-aging circles, the medical approach is to give these guys testosterone so that their testosterone comes up, and their testosterone levels will invariably go up, which is somewhat of a good thing. It depends on how they do it. Lots of times they'll give a guy like a big shot of testosterone every 2 weeks, so that can kind of spike things. But you have to realize the body is made to work a certain way. And so analogous to many of you are at least semi-familiar with bodybuilders and how they take a lot of anabolic steroids, or they can, and then their testicles atrophy, and most people have some frame of reference for that. That happens because our testicles are made to make testosterone. If you put testosterone into your body, your testicles are going to shut off, and they're going to shrink, and they're going to atrophy.
Now, there's a mechanism that occurs whenever you take any type of hormone. There's a part of your brain that detects how much hormone you have in your bloodstream and in your system, and hypothalamus. Mm-hmm. And then he's the brain guy. That's why I'm looking at him. And so then it detects that you have a low level, and then it sends a message to something called your pituitary gland, the master gland. And then that pituitary gland has what's called a feedback loop to your testicles. And so it sends a message out to the testicles and says, you need to start making more testosterone. It's too low. And then the testicles start making testosterone. The brain reads that there's enough. It shuts it down. You start taking testosterone, or in women's case, estrogen. It tells that brain you have enough. It tells those testicles, hey, buddy, take a vacation. You can kick back, get to the beach, sip some margaritas. We'll take care of this for you. Okay. So what happens when you don't use it? Dr. Gates alluded to the weightlifter who wants a little bit more of an extra boost to get bigger muscles, who's taking anabolic steroids, and he alluded to their small testicles. That's why they're getting small testicles, okay? Because their testicles have been told to take a vacation. Well, if you have big muscles and then you don't go to the gym for a long time, they're going away. Well, so are your testicles. But more than that, that feedback loop between your testicle, and this is what works for every endocrine organ, every hormonal organ, that feedback loop between those testicles and that brain will ultimately break down. So not only will you get inability to produce testosterone, but now you're going to have to take it for the rest of your life and suffer the potential consequences of it, or not take it for the rest of your life and suffer the potential consequences of that, because you have destroyed any ability that you have to make testosterone right now.
Which is something that's really talked about in the weightlifting circles. You're a weightlifter, I'm a weightlifter, and I've talked to so many 55-year-old men who maybe used to take anabolic steroids and say, well, we're not going to do it now because your testicles can shut off. However, with this, so many guys now are just jumping right into getting testosterone therapy at 55, 60, 65. We don't know the long-term side effects of this.
No.
And there's a good possibility that the testicles can completely shut off.
Well, we probably do know it if we look at what's been happening with the estrogen.
Well, we do, and there's more and more studies now coming into literature talking about guys who have been taking these testosterone derivatives who no longer can make testosterone. See Jose Canseco. Watch a documentary on him. That's basically what has happened to Jose Canseco. He must be in his early 40s now, and as of like 3 years ago, his testosterone levels just were almost nothing, because of all the years of anabolic steroids.
Maybe because he's making too much estrogen, too.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, of course. You might want to share that. Well, when the proper time is to share that.
I think we're there. So basically,
the article on that Dr. Gates just brought out about that in itself. The two things that I get mostly when people come in here and they ultimately do mention in the consult that they have low testosterone is, they're getting the man boobs. Mm-hmm. That's what they call them. They call them, well, I'm getting the man boobs, I'm getting the tire around here, and I am exhausted. And so as soon as they start, so I wanted to kind of segue into the estrogen thing with that, because the estrogen is what causes this female-ish presentation. Right.
We have women who come into this clinic who are developing secondary sex characteristics of men, and we have men who are developing secondary sex characteristics of women. And in essence, and there's actually an article, and I can only presume that it came from these clinics, because they talked about how in their 37 centers of low T, it's called high estrogen in men after injectable testosterone therapy, the low T experience. Right, and so they're saying that what they're seeing is that a lot of these guys with low testosterone is because their estrogen is high, and then if they inject them with testosterone, the estrogen may go even higher. And they see this to be more common in men who are older, in the 65-year age range, but they're even seeing it in guys who are like below the age of 25.
Yeah.
And so we have to, again, back up and say, okay, we have this growing epidemic where a lot of guys seem to not be getting erections. They seem to not have any libido for their spouse or their loved one. And
they're tired, they're overweight.
They're tired, they're fatigued, they're overweight, and they're depressed. So we know that's happening. And what we also know is happening is that they have low testosterone. But why do they have low testosterone? Likely because they're converting their testosterone to estrogen because they're overweight. So when we get fat tissue, that fat tissue is an organ unto itself. So that spare tire around your abdomen is taking the testosterone from your testicles and turning it to estrogen, giving you the man boobs.
Right. It's called aromatization. Okay,
Exactly.
And not to get fancy, but just to let you know that's not a theory. And now take it one step back.
Mm-hmm.
What is causing the testosterone to be changed into estrogen?
It is the fat tissue.
And the fat tissue. Okay, so I'm taking it one step back to the blood sugar, the obesity.
Oh, okay, what causes that? Okay.
The gut.
So then let's get into natural
obesity,
treatments. Let's go at it now. So basically we have so many patients who...
I got ahead of things.
No, it's okay. And we'll wrap it in together. So basically we have so many patients who come in here who never lose weight, who have tried every diet on the planet.
Oh, by the way, these patients are all here for something else.
Oh, yeah.
None of them are here for this.
None of
them are here for this. They're all here for peripheropathy or dizziness or vertigo or chronic fatigue or peripheropathy. I said that earlier. Fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
They're all here for that.
Right.
And then this comes out as a main player that is a key to many of those conditions. Remember, we do a chronic pain thing, so that's how we got into this.
So basically, they can never lose weight, and they've been on several diets, and they eat in moderation, and that is like my pet peeve when I hear that, because it just sends me through the roof. Because it makes me so angry, I guess, because people have been conditioned with false information.
Yeah, and some of I heard it this morning. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, I'm sorry, I heard it this morning. All those of you who can't lose weight, here's a problem. You just need to keep a food diary. Now, we treat a lot of people who can't lose weight. Again, almost none of them come in here for that.
Right.
They come in here with everything else. They start going through the program. We start correcting the things we're going to talk about, and the weight starts pouring off of them.
Right.
I don't think a food diary is going to fix those people. But that was the 3-minute, 30-second blurb from Dr. Gupta this morning on the radio station I listened to. So he's becoming a real...
Yes. Oh, yeah, he's a force.
I'm really starting to...
He's probably the next Dr. Oz.
Yeah, I'm starting to not like him.
But basically, like we had a patient we have a lot of our patients who come from out of state, and she came from California. She could never lose weight. I talked to her yesterday. She lost 10 pounds in 4 days on the nutritional regimen we have people on. And basically what we're seeing is that people can't lose weight because they have too many bad bacteria in their gut. I know you're probably thinking we're nuts, but we have done an entire broadcast on it. If you're up on the literature,
it in a professional magazine yesterday for the first time.
And I saw it 3 times in the mainstream media last year, obesity and your bacteria. And basically it is the new stuff showing that people who are obese have too many bad bacteria in their gut, and the standard American diet feeds those bacteria. They can take bacteria out of someone who's lean, put them into the gut of somebody who's obese, and they will lose weight.
Called fecal implants.
And then if they start eating the standard American diet, again, consisting of high saturated fats, high processed carbohydrates, they go back to gaining the weight again because their bacterial population shifts. And we did tons of information on this and how pieces of these bacteria cause you to make too much insulin, and insulin is very anabolic, meaning it builds tissue. However, if you're not lifting weights for about 2 hours a day, you're going to turn that tissue into fat tissue. And so all of a sudden you have this problem because you're eating too many saturated fats and too many processed carbohydrates.
And to go back to what Dr. Gates said, and this is a difficult concept for some people because people think fat is fat. But fat has many functions.
Oh, yeah.
One of the functions is it cleans up all the toxins in your system that doesn't get cleaned up by your liver and your gallbladder. And so one of the reasons people can't lose weight, one of the many reasons, is is because your body doesn't want to get rid of it. If you have toxins in your system, your body doesn't want to get rid of it because the body has an innate intelligence that knows it's going to poison your system. Okay, but this is a biggie. It changes testosterone into estrogen. If you have too much fat, I'm telling you, it's happening.
Amongst the many things it does, it creates inflammation in the system. It causes you not to know when you're full. It's called leptin resistance. Your body has this mechanism to know when you should have eaten enough.
Fat cells.
But the fat cells disturb that, and then also, as Dr. Rutherford mentioned, if you're a male, you're going to take your testosterone coming from your testicles, turn it into estrogen. If you're a female, you're going to take your estrogen, turn it into testosterone.
This is not a theory, people. This is called human biochemistry.
Yeah, and it's called aromatization. And in one of these great articles, we attached 14 articles to today's broadcast. I have another 15 if anybody wants to see them that I got this morning. But they talk about how this...
Keto does our research. I read an article yesterday. He's got 20 articles.
This late onset hypogonadism, as it's termed, for this epidemic of low testosterone, they're saying it's really due to the obesity problem. Because the obesity problem and diabetes, which is very analogous to what we're talking about in terms of what's happening with insulin. Basically, early in the diabetic process, people make too much insulin before they get diabetes, when they have pre-diabetes. And then once they get diabetes, they can't make enough insulin. But this bacterial problem is pervasive by that time. Yeah. And you can eat in moderation, and you can eat your saturated fats and processed carbohydrates in moderation. And guess what? Those bacteria are still there, and they're going to be there unless you have a specific way to get rid of them.
Yeah, and there's an ex-teacher who likes to repeat it of them. What causes the obesity problem?
It's the gut. It is the gut, in our opinion, and we see it time in and time again. And that is where all the literature is going.
It's a bad gut.
And that's why we want to write another book called
we haven't finished the first one yet.
Weight Loss Beyond the Calories. Because we all have this concept, oh, it's just calories. You got to watch your calories, and you can eat 1,000 calories a day just eating Cheerios. And a lot of our patients won't lose weight doing that, or they're eating rice or things of that nature. Nothing against Cheerios. We're not trying to slam anybody, but those are just examples.
I think Cheerios get slammed right now.
Don't they prevent heart attacks or something like that? Isn't that what they advertise? I love it. So the medical approach is to give these guys testosterone. What does that do? It increases their testosterone, obviously, but it shuts down their testicles. And if you're around the age of 60, you're kind of playing Russian roulette, because will your testicles come back when you go off the testosterone? B, you're not going to make as much sperm. So something that's also being talked about is that a lot of guys going into these clinics are 30, 35, 40 years of age. Maybe by that point they're doing pretty good in their life and they want to have, a child.
Maybe they're athletes and they want a little boost. Like I don't know if you're familiar with sports, but a lot of these sports have drug testing. One of the things they're testing for is the testosterone because it enhances performance.
Completely. And so these guys may want to have kids. Well, now they can't make enough sperm from their testicles because they're taking the testosterone. As Dr. Rutherford explained, in essence, the feedback loop from the brain to the testicles gets completely shut off when you take testosterone. So as a result, you don't make testosterone from your testicles, and you also don't make sperm. So if you want to get pregnant, that's a problem. And then also, as we discussed, then we're seeing that the testosterone is going into estrogen big time, especially when you're injecting testosterone or rubbing testosterone into your arm. And those things have to be mitigated. And so from these testosterone centers around the country, they're talking about, okay, well, now we got to give them medications to block the estrogen. This is the medical approach. So now you're taking testosterone, now you're taking a couple aromatase inhibitors and estrogen blockers and things to flush estrogen out of your system. When in actuality, so often, you can correct the problem without these medications.
And you have to understand that your body isn't just like this car where you take one piece out or you put something here and it doesn't affect anything with that. I mean just simply magnesium. If you take magnesium, okay, it's nothing to do with this. It's an example. If you take magnesium, it affects 350 chemical pathways in your body that we know of at this point in time.
Yeah.
Magnesium is not testosterone. That's all I'm going to say. Or estrogen. I mean, these things affect virtually almost everything in your body. They affect your brain. They affect your gut. They affect your liver. They affect your gallbladder if you still got one. They affect everything. Everything. And when it collapses, you collapse. And it's pretty ugly. And you don't look very good at that point in time. This is, I mean, to me, this is crazy. To me, that this industry could be where it is and expand in that way is crazy. But we understand it because people take the testosterone and they feel better. Hey, you see this guy who's got like a 75-year-old face and he's got like this like 35-year-old body. There's something wrong. There's something wrong.
Exactly. So going back to the natural treatments, our focus is entirely on the gut, because if we can correct the gut bacterial issue, we can get a man to lose weight.
Would you say entirely? Are you saying entirely relative to the fact that we're looking at the stress levels, we're looking at the
well, I'm going to get into that, but that is where we start. And until that is right, that's a better way to say it. Until that is right, then nothing else is going to be
we
right.
start with the gut.
And we have, over time, through our mentors and through the results clinically that we've seen, have developed a diet and through the literature that appears to change the bacterial population pretty dramatically. We have tests that substantiate that. And in doing so, we so commonly see our patients lose a considerable amount of body weight. We have a gentleman right now, perfect example. He comes in, he has low testosterone amongst many other hormones that were a little bit off. He weighed upwards of 400 pounds, actually, a little bit over.
He's wasting away.
Oh my gosh, he's lost 45 pounds in 2 months.
That never has been able to lose weight.
Never been.
He was like a cage fighter or something.
Yeah, at one
what
point.
Was it? Like he was like, and then something happened, I was a stress or something, and he just went like.
And he is losing so much weight, not due to calorie restriction. He eats a lot of calories, but we have changed his bacterial population.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. It's not a calorie restriction diet at all. You can eat as much as you want. We're not promoting a diet. We're just saying this is how it works. For those of you who are trying to lose weight by reducing your calories to 500 a day and taking a shot of whatever that stuff is. People
HCG. Yeah, right. And that's not sustainable.
If you have this, even that isn't going to work.
Yeah. And so then, as you alluded to, basically, a lot of guys are under a lot of stress. And one thing they talk about in the literature relative to low testosterone is low DHEA. DHEA is a testosterone hormone that comes from the adrenal glands. And it gives us a lot of our secondary sex characteristics, meaning, a beard. It can cause, our genitalia to develop the way they should develop, a variety of things. But as we age, and it's natural for the testosterone producing capability of the testicles to go lower as we get older, but the adrenals should be able to compensate to give us sufficient testosterone. However,
most people, I'm going to interrupt, most people out there who are in the nutritional, you're on the line and you're in your alternative field, you probably all know about adrenals, or a lot of you do. And the adrenals are known as the stress glands, but they also make all the precursors along with cholesterol. We should do a whole thing on that.
Yeah.
Cholesterol joins with several of these hormones in the adrenal glands to make our hormones, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone.
Yeah, exactly. And so then if you're stressed out and you're 50 years of age, you're going through whatever period of tribulation in your life, you're not sleeping as much, that is going to lower your DHEA levels.
And your adrenals are using more of those precursors to handle the stress than to make the hormone.
Exactly. So you're putting all of your...
So stress is a big factor.
Huge factor. And so a lot of articles are saying, well, maybe if we just address that, these guys would do a lot better too. And we've seen it clinically. Exactly. So we see clinically where if we can get a guy to lose weight and we can get their stress levels reprogrammed, lots of times their libido will come back, their morning erections will come back, they'll lose body fat, they're feeling good again. Now, there are instances where we've had it where we do all that, and then the guy still is not quite where he wants to be. And that's where we work with a couple medical doctors in town who help these guys. They have a more natural approach that is not injecting testosterone. It will cause their testicles to make more testosterone. And it's really cool. And we have just had the most phenomenal changes in so many men. And we just had a guy yesterday. I mean, the poor guy, he comes in for dizziness. As Dr. Rutherford alluded to, so many of our patients come in for something else.
Nobody comes in here for this. Nobody. Right. Nobody comes in and says, I have andropause. Can you help me?
Right. He came in for dizziness, and it turns out he has no erections. He has no desire to be with his loved one. He's 30.
All of which, the same things that are affecting that are affecting his brain. We don't have to get into that, but just you need to start understanding that this body is not a bunch of separate individual pieces. That it is a very synchronously functioning chemical environment.
Yeah, exactly. And so we'll put him to a protocol, but we've done pretty well on this matter. So that's what I'd have to say about menopause. I don't know if there's anything else we really need to go into. There are a lot of little details. Oh, we didn't talk about prostate cancer. Duh. We really didn't talk about that.
Don't take too much testosterone, it'll predispose you to type of prostate cancer.
There you go.
There.
Oh, and basically, who has menopause? 60-year-old men, 50, 60, 65. Who has prostate cancer? 60-year-old men. It's a very common problem. So this is why a lot of urologists are really up in arms about this, because now these guys are taking testosterone, increasing their probability if they have a prostate cancer that's going to get dramatically worse. So much analogous to if a woman's taking hormone replacement therapy with estrogen, progesterone, her breast cancer can get worse.
Right.
And so before you jump wholeheartedly and feet first into a testosterone clinic, you really need to consider what all the ramifications of this are. We recommend you talk to your doctor about this. I would maybe watch this broadcast over again. Send us any questions you have to PowerHealthTalk.
Well, I want to make it just an overall blanket comment, because I have had a bone to pick with this for quite some time. Double entendre intended for all the men out there watching this. But you know, these hormone replacement therapy. Here's what I get. In our clinic we screen patients before we accept them for care, and because there are gradients of how sick a person can be, and sometimes people come in here, they're on 15 drugs. That doesn't necessarily preclude them from being a patient, although it makes it a little bit more challenging. But they're on 15 drugs and they've lost all their organs, and they might just not be able to respond to, their tissues may not be able to respond. But this hormone replacement therapy thing has bugged me for a long time, because when people come in here, here's what people think. They think, well, it's out there. There's 47 clinics. They're selling $2 billion a year. It
Right.
must be okay. Hormone replacement, we're in Reno, Nevada, and most people are going to not realize when I say this that Reno, Nevada has been like one of the biggest alternative medicine places in the country forever. For like the last 40 years, they were first people here were doing Laetrile for cancer, like in the 70s, and there were alternative cancer clinics here, and there still are. So it's kind of an alternative bent type of a place, and not unlike Beverly Hills, there are anti-aging places and hormone replacement therapies on every corner, it seems like.
Yeah.
And no matter what type of hormone replacement therapy you're taking, these principles apply. But the thing I wanted to say is just because it's out there, because you can get it online, because it's and it's expensive, because you can get it online, and it's expensive for a reason, and you can get it without a doctor's prescription and everything. Don't be sucked into the fact that, oh well, it must be okay. I got to believe there's going to be a big come down on this whole thing eventually, because it is going to show what we're saying. We're going to start seeing people getting sicker. We're going to start seeing more prostate cancer. We're going to start seeing all these things. We're going to see people start having too much estrogen and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to make that point. I think and I also warn you to maybe have that concept in general. Just because it's on the internet, just because it's on, and I'm not anti-internet, but you have to understand that everything we've talked about vitamins, and how even certain vitamins are being over-marketed as these miraculous things. And we use vitamins, and we use supplements, and we use herbs, but we use them judiciously and specifically, and we don't necessarily use them for people to have to take them for. We're not vitamin salesmen here, okay? Your body has an amazing capacity to heal, but not if you're going to shut it down by screwing up all these mechanisms. So that's really what I wanted to get across, and I just wanted to kind of summarize with that. If it's something, as Dr. Gates just said, if there's something about this that we didn't make clear, that you don't understand, or you want to ask a question about your specific type of a problem, there are exceptions. True hypogonadism, there is something called true hypogonadism. You might have tumors, you might have something like that. That's a different story. We're not talking about that. Right. We're talking about all you people out there who just don't feel good, and you're going to take the easy way out, frankly. Okay? You're going to take the easy way out. Yeah. You're going to be taking it. You're looking for a pill. You're looking for whether it's an herb or whether it's a drug. You don't care. You want the biceps back. You want the erections back. You want anything. You want to do it without really putting anything in, I'm going to tell you, there's no silver bullet for that. That does not have a negative effect eventually down the road. But there are ways to take care of it. That's what Dr. Gates was talking about, lifestyle changes, fixing the gut, figuring out the blood sugar, these types of things. It can be done. We see it done every day. It's really fun to do, and I hope that this kind of gives you a better concept of this hormone replacement therapy field in general, frankly. So, okay, so that's all I have to say.
That's great. That was great. That was awesome.
So,
so if you have any more questions,
yeah.
go to powerhealthtalk.com, or you can send your questions to our Facebook page. It's Power Health. And we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for watching.